In 2014, Ohio State, of course, won the college football playoff. Since then, it's been a rough road in the playoff for the Big Ten. Of course, in the following 2 years, 2015 and 2016, Michigan State and Ohio State each made the college football playoff, but got shut out. I think Ohio State, lost 31-0. Michigan State, lost 38-0 in 15 and then 16. And then, of course, 2017, no Big Ten team made the college football playoff. And in 2018, no Big Ten team made the college football playoff. So we've had 2 seasons in a row where a Big Ten team could not even get into the playoff. The previous 2 seasons, when they did get in, they got shut out. That's 5 years ago since the Big Ten has even scored a point in the college football playoff. 15, 16, 17, 18, a total of 0 points scored. Can the Big Ten break that streak this year? Can they get a team into the college football playoff? And if they do, can they score a point? We're going to talk about that today as we continue with Big Ten Week here on YouTube. Good morning, it's Uncle Lou here. Yeah, that's right, it's me, Uncle Lou, and I'm live for you on YouTube today, so thanks for watching. I really appreciate it also, and in addition to that as well, subscribe to the channel if you're not already. I post college football videos almost every single day of the year, and sometimes they're even watchable. I don't know about this one, you can let me know in the comments section. Give this video a thumbs up, it really helps me out a lot. It doesn't cost you anything, doesn't take you any amount of time at all, but it's a tremendous help to me. So go ahead and do that now and hit the thumbs up button. If you're a fan of a team within the Big Ten, we're doing Big Ten videos all this week here on the channel. Share this video somewhere, Facebook, Twitter, post a link on your Instagram, whatever the case may be. I'm trying to get to 20,000 subscribers before the season starts, and you guys can help me get there. All right, if you guys have been watching this channel for any amount of time at all, then you know that this channel is basically a combination of a couple of different things. Number one, I do a lot of trash talking on this channel. To me, trash talking is just a part of college football. It's nothing personal. I don't hate any fans of any team. I don't hate any team, really. I love college football, but to me, you just can't separate trash talk and college football. They just go hand in hand. So yes, we get a lot of that here on this channel. I also try to do some quote-unquote straight college football videos where it's pure analysis or just my opinion on what a team might or might not be in one particular game or over the course of a season or whatever the case might be. And then there's some videos that are sort of a combination of the two. I've had a lot of fun at the expense of the Big Ten in general and Ohio State in particular and Michigan State to a lesser degree over the last few years with this whole playoff drought situation. Not just the fact that the Big Ten hasn't made the playoffs over the last couple of years, but the fact that the 2 years prior when they did make it, they didn't score a single point. I've done a lot of trash talking based around that set of circumstances. In fact, and I'll play a portion of the video if I can find it, when Ohio State got shut out in, I guess it was the 2016 college football playoff, I made a video immediately after that game. I went on this huge rant about how terrible the Big Ten was and overrated and yada, yada, yada. And I said that I was going to personally see to it that the Big Ten got placed on a 5-year playoff ban. And that was a trash talking video, obviously. But, I said, listen, you make the playoffs 2 years in a row. You can't even score a point. Do you know how hard it is to get shut out in a college football game? But you've somehow managed to do it 2 playoffs in a row, yada, yada, yada. I'll play some of the video if I can find it. Fake heart condition on deck for your boy, Urban Meyer. This is the big one. He's the Fred Sanford of college football. How do you not score 1 point 2 years in a row in the play? The Big Ten is a friggin' joke. The Big Ten, you guys ought to be embarrassed and ashamed of yourself. What are y'all doing up there in the Midwest? That's not real football up there. You guys are a joke. A joke. Michigan State gets mollywopped 38-0 last year in a playoff game. Ohio State comes out and craps the bed 31-0. 2 years in a row, the Big Ten can't score 1 point. Not one. You get beat 69-0 last year and this year in the playoff games. You know, it ought to be a mandatory 5-year playoff ban for the Big Ten. And lo and behold, 2 years have gone by, and Uncle Lou's Big Ten playoff ban is going strong. Can that end in 2019? And this is not a trash talking video. This is going to be just my honest, straight opinion on the situation. I think it's going to be harder in 2019 for the Big Ten to make a playoff than it was in 2017 or 2018 when they didn't make it. That doesn't mean the Big Ten won't or can't get a team into the playoff, but I think the path is difficult this year for the Big Ten, and we're going to talk about a couple of reasons why I think that is. We'll start with the Big Ten West, which has been the weaker of the two divisions for a while, really. Of course, when you look at the West, you have teams like Iowa, Nebraska, and Wisconsin. Those are pretty much the three teams that people are talking about this offseason out of the Big Ten West of having a chance to maybe win that division or get to 9, 10, or even more wins in the regular season. And you know, I think last year, was it Northwestern, I think last year won this division with 7 or 8 wins, something like that. That's obviously not good enough to get into the college football playoff. Is there a team from the West this year that can get to 11-1 in the regular season and then win the Big Ten title game? Is it possible for a Big Ten team to go 10-2 in the regular season, win the Big Ten title game, and get in? When you look at the West, I think it's bordering on impossible for a team from the Big Ten West to make the college football playoff this year. There really is no consensus pick in the Big Ten West in terms of the national media outlets, the preseason magazines, the sports websites and blogs, ESPN, whatever. There's no real consensus on who people think are going to come out of the Big Ten West. There are some people kind of going out on a limb, myself included, sort of a bold prediction here and going with Nebraska out of the West. There are other people that have Iowa coming out of the West, and Iowa will probably be the highest ranked team heading into the season in the Big Ten West. Wisconsin, it seems like you always have a few people picking Wisconsin. I don't know, it just seems to me like Wisconsin, it seems like they plateaued around the 10-11 win mark. I think they went 12-0 a couple of years ago and then lost the Big Ten title game, but it seems like they've headed down a little, especially last year. New quarterback there this year. I mean, they're always going to have a great offensive line. You know, they've got one of the best running backs in college football in Jonathan Taylor, one of my favorite players to watch. I talk about him constantly, seems like, during the season the last couple of years, and I'm sure I will again this year. You guys know how I get infatuated with certain players. I just don't know if there's a team in the Big Ten West, to be honest, that can go 11-1. And then, which is what I think would have to happen, and then win the Big Ten title game. Even my pick, Nebraska, I'm sort of thinking there's going to be a jumble of teams in the Big Ten West that finish around the 8-9 win mark. These top three probably being Nebraska, Iowa, and Wisconsin. I can see a situation even where all three of those teams finish with the same or similar records, and you're looking at tiebreakers to see who wins the division or something like that. But 9-3 probably wins that division, which unfortunately, if you're a fan of one of these teams in the Big Ten West, even if you win the Big Ten title game, is not going to get you into the college football playoff. Okay, now when you look at the Big Ten East, it gets better and worse depending on how you look at it. If you're just somebody who's looking for a way for any Big Ten team to make it into the playoff after a 2-year absence, then all your bets are in the Big Ten East this year, as they were last year and the year before and the year before. Of course, the two obvious front runners in the Big Ten East this year, once again, Ohio State, and Michigan. There are some people that are high on Penn State. I personally think this is not a down year for Penn State, not a rebuilding year, nothing like that. But I do think this is sort of a transitional year for Penn State. Of course, they lost Saquon a couple of years ago. Last year, or this year, sorry, they lose Trace McSorley. He's been quarterback there for a long time. I love James Franklin. You guys know that. Some people tell me I'm crazy and he's overrated. I think James Franklin is one of the best 10 college coaches in America. Look what he did at Vanderbilt. He's got Penn State to the Rose Bowl and come close to winning the Big Ten a couple of times. I think James Franklin's doing a good job up there. And let's be real, he inherited a pretty bad situation coming out of the whole Joe Paterno scandal with the what's the other guy's name? Joe Paterno was the coach, but you guys know who I'm talking about, the longtime assistant there, and the abuse allegations and all that kind of thing. But so I think he's done a good job there. I just don't see Penn State winning 10 or 11 games in the regular season or anything like that, and challenging for a playoff spot. I really don't even think they're going to win the division. I think it really comes down to Michigan or Ohio State. I do think both of these teams have a shot, a chance to make the playoff this year. I think the chance is smaller than what it was in years past, last year or the year before. But I do think there's a way one of these two teams gets in. Now, when you look at Michigan, Michigan plays, of course, a full Big Ten schedule, including Ohio State at the end of the year. We all know that. And they play a top 10 team in the non-con in Notre Dame. I think that gives Michigan a little bit more room for error. Let's say, for example, that Notre Dame ends up being a really good team again this year. Maybe an 11-1 team, something like that. And Michigan loses to Notre Dame. They show up to play Ohio State, which is in Michigan this year, at 10-1, and beat Ohio State. They're sitting at 11-1 with their only loss to a really good Notre Dame team, and they go on to win the Big Ten title. I think there's a good shot Michigan could get into the playoff. Ohio State, of course, Ohio State. I don't think Ohio State has lost more than 2 games in the regular season in like 10 years. I mean, it's been a long stretch that Ohio State's been winning 10, 11, 12 games. Can that happen again this year? Listen, if you're, I know it seems like every year's the year for Michigan. I get that, and believe me, I'm guilty of it too. I think I've picked Michigan to win the division each of the last 2 years, and I've been made to look like a fool when they basically didn't show up for the Ohio State games, particularly last year. They just got absolutely manhandled there at Ohio State, and Michigan was actually a favorite heading into that game. Of course, Ohio State had got blown out by Purdue a few weeks earlier. There was rumors floating around about Urban Meyer, and Michigan just blew a prime opportunity there on the road to win that game. You get them at home this year. Now, listen, I know people, especially people who aren't Michigan fans, are just pointing and laughing at Jim Harbaugh, and I get it. You got to get it done this year. Forget the playoffs for a second. I don't care if Michigan is 7-4 heading into this Ohio State game. You got to beat Ohio State this year. There's too many things that are in Michigan's favor this year to let this opportunity go by. You get Ohio State at home. That's an obvious advantage. Ohio State has a new head coach and new coaching staff for the most part, Ryan Day. Now, Ryan Day been at Ohio State for a long time, assistant under Urban Meyer, and you got a lot of Ohio State fans who are pointing at the Bob Stoops to Lincoln Riley transition and going, we're not worried. We're going to do the same thing here. That possibility does exist. However, the Bob Stoops to Lincoln Riley situation is the exception, not the rule. Generally speaking, when a school loses a big-time head coach, like a Bob Stoops, like an Urban Meyer, they do not continue on the same path, at least immediately. There usually is a step or two back. Will that happen this year? We don't know, but you have to take that into consideration when you're considering who may or may not come out of the Big Ten East this year out of Michigan and Ohio State. I know Jim Harbaugh seems cursed. Michigan seems cursed when it comes to beating Ohio State. But that's the second thing this year working in Michigan's advantage in terms of beating Ohio State this year. They get them at home, and you got new head coach and coaching staff at Ohio State. Number 3, the quarterback situation at Ohio State. And again, I've had a lot of Ohio State fans, because I mention this every time I talk about Ohio State, their uncertainty at quarterback. And a lot of Ohio State fans, I think, are misunderstanding what I'm saying because I'm a Georgia fan. I get accused of just being quote-unquote salty which is when you see somebody use the word salty in the comment section, it just means they don't know what else to say. But because we lost Justin Fields, and listen, I think Justin Fields is a great quarterback. I think his potential is sky high, and I think an offense like Ohio State's is a perfect place for a Justin Fields. However, he has yet to do anything at the college level, and I am always skeptical, no matter how highly recruited a kid is out of high school, no matter how great he plays in high school or these Elite 11 camps or anything like that. I'm always skeptical to get 100% behind somebody until I see him be productive on Saturdays at a big-time college in the fall. I get jumped on all the time by Georgia fans, and this recent example with Jeremiah Holloman from a few days ago is a great example. I come on here and I rant and rave about, how devastating it is that we lose Jeremiah Holloman, our leading returning receiver, a guy that had almost 500 yards last year, 5 touchdowns, I think it was. He's a big guy. He was going to be our wide receiver 1 heading into this season. I get jumped on by Georgia fans because, oh, Lou, we've got this guy and this guy and this guy. And I agree, Georgia has recruited better at the wide receiver position over the last 2 or 3 years than they have at any 2 or 3 year period in my lifetime. Now, obviously, we had A.J. Green in the late 2000s, 7, 8, and 9, I think he was there. And he was an all-time great. And, I'm not saying anybody on our team is another A.J. Green, but there's a lot of potential in the wide receiver room at UGA, but they've never done anything at the college level. And I'm getting jumped on by Georgia fans because, oh, Lou, look what they did here, and 5-star this and 4-star that. And I agree, it's great to have those guys. And one or more of those guys may break out this year, but the bottom line is we don't know. And Ohio State fans tell me the same thing about Georgia's wide receiver position. But when I talk about Ohio State in the quarterback position, Ohio State fan, for some reason, doesn't apply that same logic to their quarterback situation in Justin Fields. And it's not just that Justin Fields doesn't have any playing time or meaningful playing time or experience at the college level, having only played really in backup, mop-up duty type situations at Georgia, with the exception of a couple of boneheaded coaching decisions made by Kirby Smart last year to put him into the game for 1 down at a time for absolutely no reason, which I'm not going to get into here. But it's not just that. You lose Tate Martell. You had another guy transfer out. You literally have no quarterbacks on your team with any quarterbacking experience at all. And that's just not a positive. Now, Justin Fields may come out week 1 and look like a Heisman quarterback. That's possible. It's also possible he comes out for the first half of the year, or the first 2 or 3 games, or the first game, or the first 7 games, or the entire season, looking like a quarterback who's never led a college offense before and is in a little bit over his head and makes typical young quarterback mistakes and cost you a game or 2. That's possible too. And that's all I'm saying when I talk about Ohio State's quarterback situation. And you compare that to the quarterback situation that Ohio State has had over the last 4 or 5 years, and it's just night or day difference. Everybody remembers, I talked about it at the top of this video, Ohio State winning the title in 2014. They won that title with what? A 3rd string quarterback. So Ohio State has gone from having one of the best quarterback situations in the world over the last 3 or 4 years to having one of the scariest heading into this year. Again, Justin Fields may show up week 1 and look like the best quarterback in America. That is possible. But we also have to recognize the fact that the opposite is true. He may show up and have some bumps in the road and a learning curve. So the combination of those 3 things, Michigan getting Ohio State at home, Ohio State having a new head coach with some staff changes, and the uncertainty or the question marks or the lack of experience, however you want to put it, at the quarterback position at Ohio State, to me, means this is the year that Michigan has got to take that step forward and find a way to get over the hump and beat Ohio State. And while I think it's possible both Michigan and Ohio State have a chance to make the playoff this year, I think the Big Ten's best bet is for Michigan to go 12-0 or 11-1 and then beat a Nebraska, an Iowa, or a Wisconsin in the Big Ten title game and get into the college football playoff. I just have a feeling that Ohio State is going to drop a game or 2 somewhere along the line. So if I had to pick one of those 2 right now, it would be Michigan. I would go with the Wolverines. Anyway, that's it for today's video. Just sort of a generic type video there. Big Ten playoff hope. I don't even know what I'll title this video. Big Ten playoff chances, or can Michigan make the playoff? Whatever, I'll think of something. But Big Ten videos the rest of this week, at least the next 3 or 4 days. I appreciate you guys watching, and have a great day.